Hello my scrappy friends and welcome to my channel once again. I know you've been bombarded with posts from me, but here is another one. This one is for Cut to You, and here is the page that I have created. What you're going to see first is a little bit of a tutorial on how I created my cut file and design my page. So I've got Silhouette Studio open, and you can see I've just I tend to use keyboard shortcuts, so I've just gone from one window to my other window where my cut files are stored. This one is from November last year and it is called Title Bouquet maybe. As soon as I saw this cut file, I knew I wanted to include a big photo in the middle rectangle box there, and so that's what I'm running with. What I've done is I have gone to the trace panel, then I selected my trace area and draw a box around the shape. Then I've hit the trace button, deleted my original PNG file, and then I'm left with my cut file. From there I have enlarged it, and now I am bringing in the photo that I'm going to use in this, and the easiest way that I found for me to work this out is to bring my photo into the Silhouette software and have a bit of play with it. If you noticed, when I first pulled that file, that photo into the software, it tried to fill the cut file shape. So just be aware that if you are dragging and dropping, you want to make sure that you don't drop your photo into the actual cut file, because I didn't want my cut file to have that pattern, if that makes any sense. I am resizing my photo now, and what I did, I went to the fill panel on the right hand side, which is the little palette, and I selected my cut file and hit fill so that my lines are all white. It makes it really easy for me to see what I'm doing. And as you can see, I am just resizing things here, getting them how I want them. I've already edited my photo in my photo editing software, and I've just pulled it straight in after I've converted it to black and white and brightened it up and stuff. And from here is how I worked out how big I needed to print my photo. And I printed my photo so it was 9 inches across. Because I haven't cropped this photo at all, I knew that if I printed it 9 inches across, which would fill that box, then it would be exactly the right size for me to trim down around my cut file. Once I've got that size exactly right, and I know I've got the cut file the size I want it, I'm going to go into the cut window or the send window. It takes a little minute for my Cameo is connected by Bluetooth. It takes a couple of minutes for it to connect. You can see I'm just adjusting my cut settings. Now each machine is going to be different. I'm having a few issues with mine and I have to slow the speed right down, and so that's what I'm doing. I've put it on a cut 6 and slowed the speed right down. Okay, so that was the photo all printed and ready to go as well, and here you can see I'm very carefully just pulling this off my cutting mat. You can see from my cut here that I've used a very busy pattern paper, but you can see too that once all of these little bits are punched out, which I'm working on now, that it really tones down the pattern and you just get all those really pretty colours. This was a bit fiddly to pop out all the bits, so I did end up using a pokey tool. And it didn't take too long. I just sat down and watched a couple of YouTube videos while I did it. Now I want to add some stitching, so I'm very lightly adding some glue to the back of my cut file. And you can see I've flipped over my black cardstock so I didn't get glue all over the front of it. I am placing my cut file over the top of my photo. I had a pretty good idea of where it was going to fit because I'd pre-designed it in the Silhouette software already, so that was one of the reasons why I designed in the software before I cut anything. I'm going to go off camera and do some stitching, and you can see here I've just used some white thread and gone around that box, and that's all I have done. This job was a bit trickier. This is me trimming the photo down. What I ended up doing was, because I've got that stitching line there, I was able to bend the photo back on itself. I used my big scissors to chop off like the biggest chunk, and then I've gone back in with my little paper scissors and just trimmed off a little bit more, a bit closer to that sewing, and now you can't see any of the photo behind the cut file where I don't want it. Now I wanted to add some, I popped that back on my background and kind of thought it looked a bit flat, so of course gold splatters, just adding those to my background, popping that aside to dry, and I'm going to do a little bit more work on my page here. So I'm going to add some foam adhesive behind just my photo. I have spent lots of hours backing cut files with foam. I decided I wasn't doing it this time. So I'm just doing it along where where my photo is. This photo was taken on Christmas morning. I do try to get a photo of the four of us every Christmas, so most Christmases I forget. So I have discovered that if I force everyone, and by everyone I mean my husband more than anyone, to get a photo first thing in the morning, then I get my photo. Even if it is just a silly photo with half of us still half asleep in our jammies, I don't mind. It's what our Christmases currently look like. I'm using a couple of different fonts here for my title. You can't really see it, but up the top it says family, and I've used those pretty gold chili bean soup alphas. And then family, Christmas, selfie. I'm not going to make you watch me stick all this down. It is not very exciting. Again, I'm just making sure that nothing important is being covered by any of those letters. Now, it occurred to me after I stuck everything down that it was going to be difficult to get everything to stick when I knew I wasn't going to be sticking down the leaves and pretty bits on the cut file. So I've added a bit of foam adhesive behind all of those letters. You can see just there. I have added some Scotch tacky glue to the back of all of those, and I'm just peeling off the tape backing from that big piece of foam, and I'm going to stick this onto my page. It does end up a tiny bit higher than I wanted it, but it's fine. I'm happy with how it is. I knew I wanted to tuck the 2018 in down here, so I'm going to start by doing that. Then I looked at the page and I was like, I think I want to add something extra. So I'll get this down and I'll come back in 2 seconds with this is the Eurogem by Colourplay ephemera that I have left over. And so I flip through here looking for some pieces. Most of the pieces I have left are really big, and I couldn't make them work. So then I kind of started thinking a little bit outside the box, but you'll see I muck around with a couple more pieces for a couple of minutes. And then I'm like, what do I need down here? I'm going to add some pink. So first I was going to fussy cut that circle that says you light up my life or something. Something gross and soppy and lovey. But I end up using my 1 3/4 inch punch to punch that out. I'm going to move my 2018 and I'm going to pop that circle in there. Sorry, you have to excuse me. It's 10:30 at night. It's only Tuesday, and I feel like I've lived 12 days in this week, and it's only Tuesday. So I'm just adding a couple of layers here. I've brought that blue in with just a scrap of paper and relayering all this so that I am happy with the way that it looks. And I'm going to bring in another layer. I've got this craft colour. I'm just roughing up the edge with my scissors, and I really like how this little cluster has come together. Going to stick all of that down in a minute. So I stuck that down off camera, and then I added some enamel dots, and that is my page done. Now I realized when I was editing the photos that my eye didn't have a dot on it for family, so I've gone back in to add that on, but you can see the enamel dots in the close-ups. This is a beautiful cut file, and I knew I wanted to use a big photo in it, and I love the statement that it makes, especially on that black background. Um, you will find the links to everything in the description box below, so please make sure you stop by the shop and see what's new this month, or buy this beautiful file. As always, thanks for stopping by, and I will see you again in my next video.